as leaders are struggling with something we all struggle with,
Mm.
vulnerability. When and
Oh,
how to be vulnerable, and how do we do it in a way that brings people along, particularly in times of uncertainty. So I know this is something that you've had lots of conversations with your clients about. So maybe let's start there, Randy. What have you been hearing? What are some of the challenges you're hearing around this topic of vulnerability?
it's I'm really glad that we're talking about this because I think it's a theme that weaves itself through just about every coaching relationship I have. And it's interesting to me because we talk about vulnerability, and I think people have a misunderstanding about what vulnerability is. Maybe just for our purposes today, we might want to build a foundation of, why does it matter? And then talk about why people don't do it. I think we both would agree some of the best leaders we know are the most vulnerable leaders. I mean, we both know those kinds of leaders, men and women that are fabulous at sharing a bit of themselves. And as I'm working with the leaders that I'm coaching, there's a fear. There's this fear that gets in the way sometimes of sharing vulnerability. There's a worry about being judged. There is a worry that it's going to be used against them. And sometimes, and I think this is very common, I think a lot of the leaders I work with don't know how to share vulnerability. They don't actually know how to give it words. So I think we both would agree it's really important, but I do find that there's just this fear and worry that just gets in the way of leaders doing it well. Is that what you see? I mean, because I
Yeah, I
see
think
that
so.
every
I
day.
think so, Randy. And I am so glad that you said, let's start at the beginning because
Yeah.
this is stuff you and I think about all the time. So we just throw out the word vulnerability. And for some people, that, first of all, that's a scary word. Let's
Mhm.
honor the fact for some people, they're like, well, okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop listening to this podcast right about now.
Right.
But I think it's important to level set. So this is when I think of a very simple definition of vulnerability. Vulnerability is dropping all of your armor and weapons,
Hmm.
dropping all of them, taking all your armor off, putting your sword down. And for a lot of us, that is scary
Yes.
because if we do that, if we kind of expose ourselves, what's the other person going to do? That's what we think to ourselves. And if we grow
Mhm.
up in a life experience or a journey where people took advantage of us, we are not inclined to want to drop our armor and weapons.
Right.
And so we don't want to do that because we don't know if someone's going to take advantage of us. Now, the reason why this matters is, and so we talk about vulnerability as leaders, and naturally, when you say leaders, we think vertical, and that's
Hmm.
true. But where you and I see it play out almost more importantly is with peers at the
Yes.
executive level, right?
Yes.
You run sales, you got to go over there to finance, and you need to have a conversation, and you two are always kind of in contention. Someone's got to drop their armor and weapons to change that
Yes.
conversation. Someone's got to say, I need your help. That's a great example of vulnerability. I need your help. So even for
Right.
people listening today, if you want a baseline litmus test on how vulnerable you are,
Mm.
how often do you say, I need your help?
Right.
That's maybe a great way to do it. But it's an invitation, but it is scary.